You are listening to Social Europe podcast. We discuss cutting-edge thinking on politics, economy, and employment and labour with some of the most thought-provoking people around, including Nobel Prize winners and other internationally acclaimed experts. So welcome and enjoy the conversation.
Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Social Europe podcast. My name is Henning, Meyer, editor-in-chief of Social Europe. Today I'm talking to Kostas Botopoulos, who is a former MEP for PASOK, the Greek Socialist Party, and a former president of the Greek Capital Markets Authority, about the state of social democracy in Greece and the future of PASOK as a party. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So good morning, Kostas, and thank you very much for joining me today to discuss the situation of Greek social democracy, of the situation of the Greek Social Democratic Party PASOK. At the beginning of the conversation, what would you say? What is the historic position of social democracy in the Greek political system? And given the recent Greek crisis, where does the party stand at the moment?
So good morning, Henning from Athens. It's a pleasure to be talking with you. I've been working for some 30 years now with around the socialist parties, not only in Greece but in Europe. My doctoral thesis, my first book, is on what I call socialists in power in Greece, France, Spain, in the beginning of the 80s. So it goes back to that very different period, and since I've been studying the evolution of the socialist and social democratic parties. So it's a big pleasure to be talking to you today. So PASOK was until 2012, I would say, one of the most popular socialist parties in Europe. It had a very steep uprising evolution after the dictatorship. So PASOK was founded in 1974, just after the end of the dictatorship and the beginning of what we term here in Greece the new political era, metapolitevsi. There's a special Greek word for that. And PASOK started with 13% in the first elections in 74, went up to 25 in 78, and came into power with around 48% in 81. So in 7 years' time, it grew from 13% to 48%. So about 1 in 2 Greeks voted for PASOK, and this continued throughout the 80s and the 90s. Even the 2 times that PASOK lost the elections in the 90s, it got about 42% of the popular vote. The big change was in PASOK came again into power in 2009 with 44%. This is the government of George Papandreou, which, as you say, had to endure the crisis and the memorandum, the famous memorandum. And from there, the downhill route, if I may put it so, started. So in 2012, from 44, PASOK went down to 13%, and even worse in the elections of 2015, so 3 years ago, when Syriza, the leftist party, came into power. There were 2 elections in 6 months' time, and PASOK did very badly, 4.6% in the first elections and 6.28% in the last election. So there we had the adverse route. From 44, we came back first to 13, which incidentally is the beginning point, as I said. It's the first score that PASOK ever had, 13%. But now PASOK is at single-digit numbers, so it went less than 5%. And at that point in time, it was the 7th party in the Greek parliament, being always the first or the second. And now it's the 4th party in the Greek parliament with 6.28%. So it's a very declining electoral performance since 2012.
And what are the main reasons behind this weakness and this decline of the party?
I think that the main reasons of the decline have to do with two factors. First of all, I would say, and they are linked, those two factors. The first one is that PASOK, as I said, has been for 30 years almost continuously in power or being in a position to be the first or the second party, so very much involved in decision making in Greece, and this has taken its toll. But most importantly, this has taken the biggest psychological, I would say, toll, and then it got translated into electoral terms with the advent of the crisis, because for good or less good reasons, it was perceived, not immediately, because it must be noted, as I said, that the crisis in Greece came in 2009. At the end of 2009, PASOK won the elections with 44%, so this is the last PASOK government. At the end of 2010, with the memorandum already been enacted, the memorandum has been enacted in May 2010, PASOK won again the local elections and had a very good showing in the polls as well. So it wasn't immediately after the advent of the crisis and of the memorandum, but slowly it began to dawn on PASOK's popular electorate that. Or to be perceived as being responsible, if I may put it so, for the advent of the crisis, which took a terrible toll on the popular classes, which was, we are going to talk about the sociological changes, but the popular classes are, as in most of the social democratic cases, were the bulkwork of PASOK's voters, and they became totally disenchanted, both politically, because they thought that it was the fault of PASOK that this situation of not only financial but also day-to-day crisis had begun, but also, and this is I think most important, psychologically. There was a big psychological breach between the popular electors, the people that were voting traditionally for PASOK for 30 years, because of the fact that it slowly dawned on them that PASOK was the door by which the policies of harsh austerity were brought into Greece. And another factor that played an important role as well was that during this time as well, so we had crisis on the one hand, the disenfranchisement of the popular electorship, and also some very important scandals which also took a toll on the image of a popular party, the most important one being with a former vice president of both the party, the government, and the Socialist International, who is now in jail, and who was rightly so seen as somebody who, used his political power in order to gain money. So the combination of those three factors, the crisis, the political change vis-a-vis the political and psychological change vis-a-vis the popular classes, and the scandals which also took a toll on the image of a left-wing party, I think achieved this very brisk and phenomenal, I would say, and phenomenous, because the term PASOKization is based on this brisk change of fortunes of a socialist party.
Mm-hmm. And are there, against this backdrop of decline and crisis, are there any strengths left in the party?
That's difficult to say now because the situation is so difficult both in the global political landscape in Greece and also in the electoral fortunes of PASOK. To give you an idea, PASOK is polling now around 7 or 8%, so it's still in single digits since the elections of 2015, and notwithstanding, regardless of the fact that Syriza, the leftist party which came into power and which grabbed a big part of its electorate, is perceived as a failure by most people. Syriza is not popular at all, so as to continue grabbing the attention of people who were voting PASOK and then have voted Syriza. So regardless of this fact, PASOK is still polling in the single digits. So the electoral situation is bad. So it's difficult to find good spots. One, I would say, is I would find two glimmers of hope, if I may put it so, and also on the pessimistic side, there's the phenomenon which plays a very important role of the global difficulties of the socialists and social democrats throughout Europe. So this is also something which has an echo in the Greek electoral system. So on the brighter side, some glimmers of hope, I think, are twofold. First of all, as you may know, we are now as we are talking, we have elections. The first round is next Sunday, and the second round is in 10 days, the Sunday after that. We have the election of the new chief of PASOK through a popular consultation. So many people are expected to vote, and it's very important to see how massively people will come to vote. The goal being to start anew, to rejuvenate a bit this very poisonous ambiance. And if this succeeds, and there's a big if, and if the new leader, which might be the leader of today as well, because she is also a candidate and a strong favorite to win, but we will see about that. But if the new leader takes stock of this participation and really makes a change and starts afresh, the situation might get better. So this is one point of hope, one glimmer of hope. And the second one is because of the general situation and because things are so difficult, crisis is continuing for the seventh year in Greece. I think there is a need for seriousness and for the core social democratic values, for change but not through radicality, for changes, political changes which would bring a better life of people. Those things are coming to the fore again because of the situation, and if the party arrives at this rejuvenation through this election, it might start being credible again, because the big thing now is that PASOK, because of the situation we described, is not perceived as credible, has lost the very important psychological link with the popular classes, but the electorate at large, and those are the main challenges at this point in time.
And you mentioned the opportunity to potentially reconnect with the core constituency. But yes, how, apart from the process of electing a new chairwoman or chairman, how do you want to overcome this loss of authenticity, this loss of trust with the core constituency? I mean, it probably needs a bit more than just the change of an electoral process.
Sure. So the way this can be done is the classical way of all reformist and social democratic parties, namely by the policies they will be proposing. And there's also, in conjunction with the election of the new chief, also a big debate on what the policies and the proposals of, let's say, the rejuvenated or the new party, because there's a possibility of even even changing the name after the election. So there's also this ideological and political rethinking going on, which if there's also the big stimulus of participation in this process, it could be a start for reconnecting, as I said, with people. So it's not only the persons that are going to change. The main thing is that in light of the crisis, in light of the problems, in light of the more general problems also of the European social democracy, there's a big effort to change the proposal, the discourse, the main, attributes of this party. So that's the way the reconnection is perceived, and also through, the classical social democratic way, by winning the mayorships in some towns, by using the local connections, by trying to be more vocal in parliament, etc., etc. But the main thing is the new leadership, the new image of rejuvenation of the party, and the new political discourse of this party.
Okay, and to wrap the conversation up, I mean, there are of course also not just upsides, but there are also potentially threats to PASOK if it fails to rejuvenate itself. And at the same time, you mentioned the reconfiguration of the policy agenda. If you look internationally, do you see any potential role models for that, or where do you get sort of new policy impetus and inspiration from?
Yes, it's difficult to say internally. So, I mean, in Greece, we have an anti-model, if I may put it so. We know that there must be a change, that the already existing model of a PASOK as a very, party of from bottom up, if I may put it so, with a very strong leadership, with a very strong, and this was one of the main historical characteristics of PASOK, not only in Greece but in Europe in general. When it started, it had many active members, which was a new phenomenon for Greece. We had up to 200,000 to 150,000 for a country like Greece. It's a very big number. And in the first direct elections of the leaders of PASOK, I remember when George Papandreou was first elected, and he had no opponent as well. 1 million people went to vote. So there was a very important connection with the populace, be it voters of PASOK or people interested in the history of this party. This is over as a model. Both the bottom-up approach, a very strong leadership, the monolithic government. There's no possibility for the time being for PASOK to rule alone, even if it were to go from single digits to double digits, even to double its electoral performance. It's impossible now. We have a new electoral role. We have been used to have coalition governments now in Greece. So all this change, all these things have changed. So there's an anti-model, if I may put it so. As for the model, if it were to come from other European countries, there's a debate, I would say, but this is to be taken with caution and with all due respect. The dissimilarities are bigger than the similarities. But theoretically, there is a debate currently going on in what I call the ideological discourse between, let's say, a type of more reformist Macron type party and a more not leftist but trying to be part of a coalition of the left, more of the Portuguese type. So if I were to generalize what would be the two poles around which the Greek socialist experience can take form as we speak, and not tomorrow, because there's still a lot of political and ideological work to be done. One, and it depends on the new leader very much as well, one would be to go more to the center, a reformist Macron-like party of government, and the other would be to try to refocus on an alliance of the left. The big difficulty in Greece being that the left, for the time being, is being occupied by Syriza, which is not a social democratic party. And this is one of the big changes with the big differences vis-a-vis, for example, the Portuguese experience, where the Social Democrats are the big component in the left wing alliance, whereby in Greece PASOK cannot be at this point in time the main part of it, and Syriza, again, this is my personal opinion, but I'm very adamant about that, is not at all a social democratic party. It has more the characteristic of a populist, nationalist, nominally leftist party, which is not at all what the social democratic experience would require. So an anti-model is the existing model of PASOK. Two alternative possibilities from abroad would be a Macron type, more to the center party, or a try to forge an alliance of the left.
Well, it's either the French or the Portuguese option. Well, thank you very much, Kostas. This was very insightful, and we'll follow what the development of PASOK is and see where the party decides to go.
Thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you don't miss future episodes by subscribing to Social Europe Podcast. You can also read our articles on www.socialeurope.eu and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter @Social Europe. Until next time.